safe banking. Hang on. And he's
know.
also, he voted against the research of cannabis in the veterans world. So this is not a new speaker who's going to be a friend of cannabis, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least they elected somebody.
What they you know what?
Somebody's better than nothing.
It's something. Yeah. I know. Well, we'll see. You know, yeah. Are we? Did you give me the thumbs up yet, Don?
We should be.
All right, great.
All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Green Room. And again, 2 weeks in a row, we have some amazing guests, and today we have
really
Dr.
do.
Kaplan. We really do. This is great. I love.
Oh, listen, we've been honored recently to have some unbelievable authors. We had Peter Grinspoon, and we have Dr. Bridget came in, and last week, of course, you know, we had cancer and cannabis with Dr.
Yes.
Joel Goldstrich. But today we have Dr. Benjamin Kaplan joining us from Boston up in Massachusetts, which I know is, you know, Ruta's heart. And we'll get around the medical cannabis into your fantastic book in a second. But we got to give a big, you know, prayers and hearts out to Maine, of course, and what's going on up in your zone.
I hate, you know,
I do too. And how can I say that? The most unrighteous person in the world.
It's that, but it's like it gets
It is. It does get old. Let's solve this already.
Somebody massacred, whether it's Israel, Gaza, Maine, it's just ridiculous. It's enough.
Gun violence, and mental illness, of course. Horrible combination. There seems to be a history to this particular individual. We'll find out more. But you know, I hate starting on a green room that way. But there has been, you know, of course, and we discussed Israel, you know, last week, and you know, we'll probably discuss, you know, tragedy and man's inhumanity to man, unfortunately, you know, I know.
It's just, I don't know. I think we're in 2023, and I just feel like there's never progress on our side as humanity. It's just doing this yuckiness, and it's awful.
I do. It's one of the things that comes out is that I do fully admit that I'm shamed that my leadership generation, because as everybody knows, I'm 67, you know, inside joke for the green room. Inside running joke. But seriously, I would have hoped that my leadership generation could have solved at least that. We're all on the planet for a short period of time. As everybody knows, my best friend passed away in a fire at 23, set my life's kind of vision. He never had a chance to practice medicine a day in his life. And I've had two unbelievable careers, you know, one in emergency medicine, and now, of course, in medical cannabis. And let's not waste time with a great guest. Because listen, so Dr. Benjamin Kaplan is family medicine trained and really has been churning the waters for a good 20 years. I read your bio, Ben, and I was so impressed. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became interested in, you know, cannabis as medicine, and, you know, just wherever you want to go with it. But it's such an honor to have you in the green room. Well, listen, and we always start with this and we'll end with it. Has authored a book. It's not easy to do. Tell us how our viewers can get it, and do that early, and we'll do it late too, because anybody that takes the time and effort to really to do that and to enter into the debate still in public discourse about how cannabis can be medicine and using it best. So we want to make sure that you really get that out to how everybody can benefit from your work.
So give us a quick bio on yourself, and then let's talk cannabis.
Sounds good. Thanks again for having me, guys. I appreciate it. I've just finished authoring and it's on shelves now, the doctor approved cannabis handbook. For folks that are interested, you can pick it up at kaplancannabis.com, both with a C. The book is a compilation of benefits. You know, I've seen the culture miss itself. The doctors kind of miss where the evidence is, or they're not reading it, and patients and stores really have no idea what they're doing in terms of execution and delivery of care. What products can help which illnesses? How do they help? And what's the protocol? You know, this book is absent any fluff. It's really dense. Every page across the 16 chapters is full of how-tos and stories from real patients that I've seen, some of them actually in their own words, you know, fully. A couple charts with how to use vaporizers, how to use tinctures, how to make your own stuff. It's really nothing spared. It's all there. Every single claim in the book about medical benefits is backed with a peer-reviewed reference right in the back. So this is not me pulling a rabbit out of a hat. This is me pulling the research out of what is published and concisely sharing it in one sort of encyclopedic book.
Wow,
And that's why I
really
first
good
became
book.
interested in what Dr. Kaplan was doing because, and this came up in the 10% THC cap debate here in Florida on flower, that remember they wanted research on
everything.
what the difference was between potency of flower. And of course, listen, Ben, you'd be so interested in knowing we had the research consortium. I hope they may be watching this
I
morning.
think so,
Dr.
yeah.
Cook and
Yeah,
listen,
that's
we had them
what
here
I'm about.
yesterday in our office, University of Florida, formal Florida arm of research,
Mhm.
here in our clinic discussing their studies that they're trying to
get
put
into
together
place, yeah.
and the difficulty in finding, as you know, good research. Anyway, that's where I became interested in you because you dive into the PubMed. And you've been well known, at least, you know, in my circles, to be that person that if somebody really wants to, you know if there's been an article done or how we can substantiate that, that's been your interest. And, you know, we need so much more of that. And I'm fearful and how we're going to get that because it's the heterogenetic nature of both the patient and the plant itself that makes the research so hard to do.
difficult. And even speaking with that consortium yesterday, they were asking, they wanted to try to isolate some patients that were going to be almost like placebo effect versus they wanted all THC and then no CBD, then a mixture of THC, CBD, and to do the research. And we're like, okay, this is not going to be like a walk in the park.
Well, the CBD research is easier to do than THC research because people tend to know if they're getting THC or not. Now in microdosing, perhaps not so. So is your book designed really more for practitioners at this time or for patients?
It's both. It's both. I've crafted this book basically over the last 3 years very carefully so that I left the jargon out. The science heavy stuff is there, but it's translated, it's simplified. I use analogies so that everybody can be on the same page. This isn't going to be a book where clinicians and scientists are talking over regular people. This is going to be a book for everybody. It's written for everybody. And I think that's a really important thing. A lot of the time, in my limited experience anyway, I've seen doctors talk over patients. Either they're not listening to the patients to understand what they're going through, or they're using language and explanations that they're not explaining to their patients. And actually, worst of all, they think they can make decisions for patients. In the name of what's best for the patient. And I think, what I hear over and over is that nobody likes that. We want to be empowered over our own choices. We want to understand what we're doing, and we want to command, drive our own ship. So this book is meant to deliver those tools for people. And it's also not just for beginners. There are charts in this book that I've been building over 10 years. There's a terpene chart, a flavonoid chart, and a cannabinoid chart that tells the users not only what these things are, but what the evidence is to support their use as medicine. If you flip to sitagliptin, this is a flavonoid. It happens to have evidence supporting that it's an anti-diabetic, that it's helping people manage sugars. For people that are concerned about nerve damage or pain, it happens to be a neuroprotective. It's that kind of level of detail for the experts that's in here.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you don't know what's really doing the effect of the plant. Dr. Goldstrich last week spoke to that in his cancer care. His philosophy is using as many cultivars as he can obtain because he's not sure what flavonoid, what terpene, who knows whatever else. I saw yesterday, just kind of in the lay quote unquote press, that there's new cannabinoids, right, that they're talking about now that are contributing to the smell of cannabis, the taste of cannabis, and and of course the research that's being done in Israel on even and synthetic cannabinoids. And I can't wait to ask you this question because you've been doing it longer than I, and I have my perspective on it. But could you have imagined what would be going on in the unregulated hemp space? 5 years ago, even probably when you started to compose your book, the Delta 8 products that are out there. I don't know the prevalence of them up north because of legal cannabis being available. But in the South, you're seeing all these quote unquote hemp derived products from gas station, of course, God forbid, to flea markets and even in doctor offices, Ben, outside of the MMTC world, which is the formal cannabis dispensary world here in Florida. Doctor offices now will have quote unquote hemp derived Delta 9 gummies, right? Going through that loophole, in the Farm Bill. So could you have imagined, when you started that because of unintended consequences, in my opinion, for the Farm Bill, that we'd be dealing with this kind of what we call gray market, completely uneducated public with a completely unregulated, untested product.
Yeah. I mean, it's not terribly surprising. We have an entirely legal hemp market, this $100 billion industry, and we have an entirely, quote, illegal market, the THC side, whose differences are so subtle that even the people making these laws have no idea what they're doing. So for the fact that the leadership doesn't know kind of how to distinguish these two, what the differences are, how to regulate them, it's like the blind leading the blind. So it's not terribly surprising to me. I think the opportunity that we see these days is the public knows more than their leaders.
Okay.
Whether it's a professional doctor or a professional politician, the public knows what works.
The issues, I think. I'm teasing, but I'm not. Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
And you and I and others try to work with our politicians and our leaders, our hospital leaders. As you were talking about other doctors right now, it's interesting to me. I don't really get angry at other doctors that don't understand what we do necessarily and why we do it, because they don't teach us this in med school, and there's no residency program for it. So how I like to approach doctors that don't really understand why I do and how I do it and everything, I just tell them that, listen, you have to get out of that biased look of 1969 with the guy on the front of the zigzag paper smoking the joint. That is a THC Delta 9 phenomenon, and that's the smoking, which no doctor is ever going to nod his head and like. Of course, we know that. You have to look at cannabis in light of not just THC, but all of the cannabinoids, and you have to get rid of the image of smoking or inhaling as the only route of administration, right? If you can't do that, then you're letting your bias from 69's image get in the way of appropriate healthcare in 2023, because we need every tool in the tool chest.
Yeah, I think a lot of clinicians don't recognize that the endocannabinoid system is the most populous communication system in the body. I mean, it's so unethical that this has been left out of mainstream medicine. I mean, it's like we have no idea what serotonin is or dopamine is, or I mean, it's crazy. So I think the mission really is, it needs to be collaborative. We can't work without the traditional system, and the traditional system honestly has not been working without the endocannabinoid system. We talk about placebo effect as if it's this mystery magic, but there's also this huge system central to what it means to be alive that we also don't know much about. And I think it's a little bit strange to think about all of the literature that has been published that is completely blind of the endocannabinoid system as a huge independent variable.
Do you do any lectures like up in Boston at any of the med schools, or have you tried to get in?
Yeah, I do. I lecture everywhere that has me. I mean, I'm on a mission, and the book is taking me on tour. I'm talking across Massachusetts first, and then across other states. Trying to help people see that we've just been duped. This last 100 years is the only time in history that cannabis hasn't been mainstream part of human culture. I mean, we have evidence back to 12,000 years ago. Every step of the way, cannabis has been there, front and center in medicine, including being, part of the pharmacopoeia in this country.
Of course.
And it was taken out, because of a political social agenda that's not relevant to people's health today. Talk about cancel culture. We need to cancel the program.
No, it's one of the few things that actually united doctors for a day-long strike in 37 or whatever the heck it was, but, and for sure, we tell our patients that. What percentage of your patients come in that have never used a cannabis product in the past in a recreational fashion? In our clinic, tends to be about a third or so.
Wow. No, it's much smaller here. I mean, I think I tend to be pretty expensive compared to the card flippers around me. And, unfortunately, we have that dynamic where there are clinicians who have either burned out or feel frustrated about their own careers jumping into cannabis because it seems easy. Not really putting much rigor into it, and sort of diluting our specialty. But I would say maybe 10% of the people that I see, have no experience. Almost everybody has some, and they're looking to me for, another level of education and expertise.
Sure. What's the difference between a recreational quote unquote legal adult use patient in Massachusetts and a medical patient? Is there tax advantage? Are there better quality products?
Oh, in terms of the system, no. I mean, I think from my perspective, it's all therapeutic. Whatever someone's using it for, they're trying to help themselves in some way. And as far as the cannabis program here, the products are identical. They both have to, meet the highest standards of purity and lack of toxicity and no contaminants, et cetera. The medical patients here don't have to pay tax, so they save about 20% off the top.
Okay.
The stores also are allowed to do deals and discounts on the medical side, which are not allowed on the adult side. So there's additional savings beyond the taxation.
Yeah. Those are kind of the things that I was looking for because, to me, you add in protection in the workplace, you add in the ability to use it in the hospital, nursing home, assisted living center with a card. We know that in Florida, the protection of our no taxes and the quality, we know that we're going to have to protect quality. And, do you have the availability of what we call duality products up there?
Yeah.
THC and CBD in your topicals and in your vape products and flower, of course, very few dispensaries will offer a mixed, THC and CBD product. I wish more would, but do your patients have that availability of the minor cannabinoids within the
system? I mean,
Massachusetts
isn't regulating the stores what to do, what to grow, or what to sell. The free market is really pulling out those strings. Most people choose to go online at reputable places that sell CBD products online because it's cheaper. Dispensaries are priced out of CBD products, but they do still offer some mixtures. Occasionally, there are stores that sell pure CBD, but it's just not been an easy way for them to make money. Another thing to mention, actually, Massachusetts is one of 3 states in the Northeast that has a state Supreme Court ruling protecting medical card holders as a protected class.
Yep.
So for legal concerns, it's one of the safest places to be in the country.
How do you feel about the rescheduling at the national level? To the extent of, obviously, I think you would agree it's going to facilitate. We had a discussion last night with our research friends. Of course, it's going to facilitate some degree of research. You would think that pharma would respect whole plant entourage product and not just do research on individual singular cannabinoids, but that's kind of how they operate.
Yeah. I mean, I think
companies pay for cannabis as medicine. They're going to fight that every step of the way because they never want to put out dollars. But how do you view it from your angle?
I mean, I think anything that promotes research is good. I think it's much more complicated than traditional research pathways. So I think there's a lot still to be unfolded in order for legalization to happen or rescheduling. Whole sectors of government have to be built up and built out, and that's a long road. I'm optimistic that there'll be some infusion of common sense into the system. But most people listening probably know that common sense is hard to find sometimes in politics.
So just looking back into politics, I mean, the Republicans finally figured out in the House what to do, and we have a new, speaker, Mike Johnson, but he has voted against safe banking. Okay, and he also voted against the simple research at the VA level, okay, for medical cannabis. And this is not good. This is not good. We need to have visionaries, up there to the extent and right. And safe banking, of course, is such a financial issue, of course, with the stocks, and all that. I don't know.
How is Massachusetts handling like banking on medical cannabis? Is it very restricted because of
it's more or less the same everywhere. There are a couple banks who have stepped out on a limb to try to support the industry. And so far, I've not heard any catastrophe. So I think, a lot of it is kind of blind fear. But I don't look to the government to infuse common sense into the culture. I think it's the other way around. We have a culture which is overwhelmingly supporting medical cannabis to the tune of I think 98% of the American population. So if the politicians currently aren't seeing, eye to eye with what's sensible, it's going to come soon. I'm not hearing you, Barry. I'm not hearing you, Barry. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah.
There you are.
Now?
Now I can.
Still no?
Now I hear you now.
Yeah.
Okay, still
There you
no,
are.
huh?
Now you go.
Now?
Yep.
No.
I can
What
hear
we'll
you.
We don't
do-
have any mic on him either.
Yeah, no, nothing.
Yeah,
Nothing
we have no
changed.
sound, though. That's weird.
You know what, maybe we'll try to resend the link. Hang on, Don's checking a couple things.
Yeah, but nothing moved, nothing
works.
changed.
Yeah,
That
no,
was
not
really
work- yeah,
bizarre.
Works now. It works now.
Tech issues in the green
Power
room.
go out or something?
Still no, huh, Ben?
I can hear
Yeah,
you.
if
No,
wanna talk
fine.
after you hear some-
No problem.
I can hear you guys online. Oh, you can
I
hear
can
us
hear you.
now?
I can,
We
yeah.
can, but we can't hear you.
Yeah,
Why can't we
turn up
hear
your
you?
sound, Don, if you can,
Yeah,
just
no,
hear it
that's-
through there. Anyway, what I was asking you, Ben, and listen, I'm not the best lip reader, but I'm not bad either. What I was asking about, once again, was where do you really see in your practice experience that really medical cannabis has made the biggest impact, from your perspective?
Hold on.
Hmm.
We want to make sure we hear him.
Yeah.
Hey,
Can you
we
hear-
want to hear you, really. Hold on. Hopefully we'll get this resolved. Sorry, everybody, about that. Sometimes there's glitches in the green.
Well, how can that
I
be?
can't
Can you
say
imagine,
glitches in
can you
the green
imagine a
room.
world that's glitch free?
Yeah, glitch free. No.
Listen, our computers go down in the office for 10 minutes,
I know.
it spikes everybody's blood pressure.
Oh my gosh, in like 2 seconds. So they still haven't caught the guy from Maine.
I know.
Was watching the news this morning.
That's
It's-
terrible.
It's awful.
People
They're
running
still.
around with assault weapons and all that.
Yeah, it's an
If I
AR-15.
close it, it's gonna close out the stream, so that's when.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm afraid, but I need
All
to
right.
get him back. We need to get him back in.
Well, you know what we'll do, and I hate tech problems. Everybody, make sure that hopefully you can hear me.
Oops, we're down. That's right. We're gonna bring him back.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everything went down. That's bizarre.
Yeah.
Something clicked. I heard something.
Oh, you
click.
did?
Okay.
Oh,
Recognizing it.
but it's strange. It's just on, like, he hears us though.
I hate to wrap up the green room because this is what I wanted to hear. I mean, you used
You know,
to
people are like tuning in from Boston. My family is, I know for sure.
tech, AI.
It's
I know
Kill it,
Chicago's
close it.
tuning in. I have Indiana tuning in. There was.
Ben, if you just nod to us and agree that in sometime in the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Can we have
will
you back?
revisit and have you back when our tech problems are solved.
I don't think he hears us. He doesn't hear us.
Never happened.
hold
the
on.
green room.
Yeah, no, literally, this has never happened. All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna close this out. We're gonna try it again.
Close it out. All right, everyone, sorry about this. Stay tuned. We're gonna come